I am platform agnostic. I don't care what I don't push people to podcasting because I push them to what works for them. Right now, podcasting is the top ROAS of any medium right now. It beats billboards, it beats television, radio, uh, social media, influencers, it beats Facebook ads, it beats everything right now. It's got a 4.9 ROAS, 4.9x ROAS, which means for every dollar you spend, on average, it returns $4.90. So, even radio is like three something. So it's much better than anything else. So now I'm telling everybody, podcast, 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 because it works.
Welcome to Unstoppable Podcast with Harry Sardinas, inspiring conversations with influential millionaires, investors, thought leaders, entrepreneurs who are making a massive difference with their innovative products and services, and sharing the challenges and wisdom of how they sold their first million.
So tell us, what are the messages do you have for the entrepreneurs out there that that are struggling to grow the business? We have a statistic that 90% of the business fails in the first 2 years. So why do you think that these businesses are failing, and what message do you have for the entrepreneurs that are struggling, try to go from 0 to 1 to achieve the first million?
Well, I tell you, there's a couple different reasons why these enterprises fail. Mine would have failed simply because I was too early, but I had a marketing company that paid the bills. So I kept doing the podcasting out of passion. All of 2005, I traveled around the country speaking to business groups, speaking to college groups, saying, look, this new technology is here, podcasting. You can be the media. It's changing everything. And it was blank stares. It was way too early. So if I had relied on podcasting 100%, I would have gone out of business because it was years later before any money was made in podcasting. So that's one reason companies fail, is they're too early. But another reason is maybe they don't understand. One of my favorite sayings is, you're not the customer. I've had conversations with business partners and they come up with all these great ideas. We should have it do this, or we should make a whiz bang thing that does this. And I'll ask why. Oh, because it's cool, or because I would like it. And I try to tell them, you're not the customer. So we put it out there, we test things, and we get feedback from the customer. If you don't give feedback, you don't know. You may spend a lot of time spinning your wheels, dreaming up all these things that you think are great, and they aren't willing to pay for. So that's one of the other reasons. The other thing I alluded to, I think before we went on the air, was focus. Confucius says, he who chases two rabbits catches neither. So that's one of the things that happens, is they will make a little bit of money at something, but it's not where they wanted it to be. So then they'll go off and start, okay, I'm going to write books. Okay, well, I'm going to go into acting, or I'm going to go into, I'm going to sell janitorial services. They'll keep changing what they're doing. And because of that, none of them has the attention to grow, and you need to stick with it. Another thing is being afraid of partnerships. I know everybody has heard horror stories about partners that ripped them off or didn't live up to promises or something like that. But you can't do it all as a solopreneur. There's very few solopreneurs who have made millions. It just doesn't happen. You need people. So you have to trust, you have to try and keep moving.
So yes, I remember. I think that you're very right in this, that sometimes in business you wait too early. I think that
Yes.
the worst number in business is one. Sometimes people come to see me with an idea. Look, Harry, this idea is so unique. This business is amazing. Nobody else is doing it. And
Yeah.
when when somebody came with that, we come with this, you have to be very careful, because maybe the reason why nobody's doing it yet is because there is no market for it.
Right. There's no
You
profit.
no market,
Uh,
yeah. Or
let's say one of
nobody's
the
willing
sayings
to
I
pay
love,
money. Yeah.
yeah, one of the things I love is the pioneers get the arrows. So if you're out
Mhm.
there ahead of everybody else, the arrows are going to get you. And let everybody else figure out what works and what doesn't work, and then
Yeah,
go in there.
yeah. I have a story about this, because the one of my brilliant ideas, I own several businesses during my life from, and one of them was, I decided to create the first halal Spanish tapas in Brick Lane in London. And oh my God, the I brought the one of the best chefs from the Hilton to design the menu.
Mhm.
And the thing is, it was so new, exactly what you said. It was so early. It was a new type of food. For I don't know, Brick Lane is in London is known as a curry corridor. So a lot of Indian food and from food from Bangladesh, spicy food.
Mhm.
And I was the only one offering Spanish food, Spanish
Yeah.
food for the Muslim community. So it had to be halal. So definitely no pork, no alcohol. So I opened a different type of food for that community. And oh my God, I remember the people passing by the restaurant laughing and asking me, "What are you doing here?" So I stayed 2 years there. I closed it, lost 200,000 pounds. I lost my girlfriend back in the day. It was a disaster. It was a big
Yeah.
failure. Thankfully, I have other businesses that property ones, and the other ones that helped me to get back on my feet. But you know what happened? Now you go to Brick Lane and 50% of the restaurants are alternative food. Actually, they were waiting for me to fail and to
That's
leave. So it
right.
was way too early. And then now you walk with the road. I'm walking right now with this road. I said, this is ridiculous. I was the first here. And
Yep.
they want to do a documentary like Once Upon a Time in Brick Lane, talking about my restaurant, someone that came with that crazy idea. So the whole point, Chris, you're right. When you are the first in the market, you do have to be very, very careful. And I understand, by being one of the fifth, number five podcasts in the world, this early adoption is a process that it is expensive,
Yes.
because it takes time to explain the product to the people. It takes time to communicate the value. They just don't know. And so, how you handle adversity? How you said that you have your marketing agency the same way that I have my property
Yeah.
business. But how do you handle adversity? Why you were doing this podcast? I mean, you said 20 years ago, right?
Yep.
2005.
Yeah.
So imagine 20 years ago, who's gonna be thinking about this podcast? Yeah, I just started
Yeah.
7 months ago. I said so.
Nice. And you're doing a great job.
Well, people are loving it. Yeah. So
Yes.
then, Chris. So so how you handle this rejection,
Yeah.
and that adversity, and how you find the strength to keep going?
Yeah, I don't, I'd like to say it was this incredible strength I had, but it wasn't. It was I loved doing it. It was fun. And so I just said, okay, this is a hobby for now. I tested to see if it could make money early on and discovered it could. I did a hyper local show. I did one called This Week in Houston just to see. And while I didn't get a whole lot of money, I got into anything I wanted to for free. I even got into the Super Bowl that was in Houston by having the podcast.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
And so I thought, okay, I can't make money yet, but it gives me access. So
Hmm.
I leveraged that access and I use that I mentioned the first one was high school football. I connected with the governing body of high school sports in Texas, the UIL. I connected with them, became good friends with the executive director, I then connected with the Texas High School Coaches Association, which is the largest coaches association in the world, close to 30,000 members, and became friends with them. And yes, none of them were paying me any money, but it gave me some credibility. So then I could go speak to groups and pitch the ideas. And I ended up writing a book with the head of the UIL about the head of the Coaches Association, and that gives more credibility. So again, it wasn't, I didn't need to make money from it. I needed to grow this passion and this connection. And now it's working out great because we're doing hundreds and hundreds of shows related to high school sports.
Oh, that's fantastic. And
Yeah.
this undoubtedly is one of the biggest the biggest positive things about a podcast. It's just the people, imagine this one, 5 steps how to make the first million. We interview 500 millionaires.
You're right,
They
right.
are all my friends. They got in my phone. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
exactly. Now I know you. You know me.
exactly,
So
it's a great
we
way
have,
to build and create relationships. Yeah, and
yeah.
and to explore what the other person is doing, and how and creates a lot of collaborations. Like I said, these the from people from the podcast, they after the podcast finished, they contact me, Harry, I had this project, I have this, can you help out? And I'm just so busy trying to help my podcast guests with the project. Some of them, building the developers doing real estate. Some of them they are in tech. Some of them have a lot of money and want to invest in projects. Some of them are having a company and they want to grow. They're looking for funding. So these have been a bless for me, right?
Mhm.
I do also understand, when it comes to the authority. I wrote several books and I speak all over the world, as you can see behind
Yeah.
in the screen, about in the topics of how to start growing the business, overcome the fear of public speaking, how to make your brand from local to global from the stage. And however, Chris, I think, in my opinion, that if you are a podcast host, right, the level of authority that I give you in the topic that the podcast is about
Yeah.
is really really strong. And the other thing is that I didn't know is that there are a lot of part of the world that people drive a lot and they can listen to podcast on the car.
Yeah.
I didn't know that when I started this podcast. All this type of thing I just find out what I doing. So how do you see the potential of podcasts worldwide? Do you think it's a growing market or
Yeah.
not really?
No, it's exploding right now. It's really big. You mentioned driving in the car. I live in Texas, so everything is far. So we have long drives. So yes, lots of podcast listening. But as far as the market itself, um, there's a couple people who will come up to you and say, "Oh, there's too many people podcasting already. There's no market for it." But it's true. There's about 25 million people who have created a podcast. The problem for them was 99.5% quit before episode 11 because it's work, and so that means that's active right now. There's about 3 million. That's it that are active. So the
We are
opportunity
not
is
quitting, Chris. Definitely, we're not quitting here. Yeah.
no, no, no,
Oh,
no, not at
absolutely.
all.
But I do agree with you. It's a big job. I didn't know about it. Oh my God.
Yeah,
It's
and
a
that's why what
lot
we
of
do that
work.
that's why what we do in our company is we do all the heavy lifting. We do all the back end work for you. All you do is record your show and you're done because we saw that need, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh my God, it was when I talked with our IT team. I said to my IT team, "Look, I want to do a podcast." They asking me, "What? What is this?" I said, "Guys, I want to do it." And they told me, "Okay, Harry, let us think about it." And yeah, after 3 weeks, somehow they come with something that I just
Yeah.
press the button and honestly, I don't know what has happened after this.
Right.
But I know
Yeah,
that
they're
goes to all
working.
my social media, go to Spotify, go to Apple. They
Yep.
develop, websites, software that distribute the whole thing. I go to my YouTube channel and so on. They process all the information. So, but I am aware that is a lot of work in the back end, because we're talking about hours of footage that they
Yeah.
have to be processed, they have to be edited, they have to be displayed. Each social media channel have different characteristics that we can post
Right.
the content, so we need to look at this carefully. Actually, we are reviewing this at the moment to increase even the viewership in
Yes.
the social media channels. We have over a quarter million followers, but we want to reach to 1 million. So again, it's a big job.
Yes. Yes.
You're talking about hours and hours of content that had to be dealt with, repurposed, treated. Because the whole point of the podcast, this is what I'm saying to my team, is to reach as more people as possible. Otherwise, what's the point of doing it? It's a lot of work.
Amen.
You
Yes,
see,
sir. Yes,
people
sir.
have to listen to it. That's the whole point. You see, and sometimes like Chris, because honestly, I'm loving it a lot. I'm meeting
Yeah.
amazing people. I'm having a great day. Honestly, it changed the way it changed my day. Meeting amazing people like you.
Yeah.
Look, like
Yeah.
who's gonna tell me that I'm gonna meet in person the number fifth podcaster in the world? Yeah, I can't even dream of that. They should make a statue of you. uh, you see,
Yeah.
so in the yeah, because nobody talks about the early adopters, and because I have early
Right.
adopting business and it failed, nobody never talk and I give credit to the people that actually the founded, the people that took the risk and actually create the industry for now for all of us to benefit,
Right.
because somebody had to start first, and it's tough and it's expensive and it's frustrated and at least you and I, we've been there, so we know how it feels. So
Yeah.
now, okay, so what message do you have then for the entrepreneurs and then for our fellow, if somebody want to start the podcast
Yep.
and they already did 5 and they feel like quitting, they feel like, oh, what's the point to do this, too many people are doing it. Actually, if too many people are doing the podcast, it's a good news. that
Right.
means that
Right.
means that means that there is demand for it, right? It's the
It's
same.
working.
people
Yeah.
people say, well, I don't want to write a book about recipe in the kitchen. Well, books about recipes, well, clear is demand for it. When you go to a bookstore, there are a lot of cooking books,
Right.
so that means that people are buying them, otherwise they won't be there. So the fact that there is a lot of podcasts out there, that means that there is demand for it. So
Yeah.
what message do you have for our fellow entrepreneurs and fellow podcasters that they say that
Sure.
is too much and they're about to quit?
Yeah. I would say one, stick with it, but two, find some pieces you enjoy doing and then outsource the rest. Like I said, with my company, we do we first do a free consult with somebody thinking about going into podcasting. And in there, we discover everything, what you want to teach about, what you want to, do you want guests? Do you want to be yourself talking, a talking head? Or, what type of show, how frequent, how long it should be. We go through all of that and figure out everything from the album art to the background music to everything, and that's all free. So just to show them, hey, here's what you should do. And then from there, we offer a launch service where we can actually do the work for them. All they have to do is record their little bit. We do all the work and teach them how to do it. So they never need us again. If they never don't want us, they don't need us again. We just help them launch. But most of the time, they'll come back and say, "Hey, could you do the editing? Could you do the distribution?" And that's fine. But as far as why, a recent study came out, and this is talking about advertising. Right now, there's a measurement called ROAS, return on ad spend, and they keep track of what's working, what's not. As a marketer, I am platform agnostic. I don't care what I don't push people to podcasting because I push them to what works for them. Right now, podcasting is the top ROAS of any medium right now. It beats billboards, it beats television, radio, uh, social media, influencers, it beats Facebook ads, it beats everything right now. It's got a 4.9 ROAS, 4.9x ROAS, which means for every dollar you spend, on average, it returns $4.90. So, even radio is like three something. So it's much better than anything else. So now I'm telling everybody, podcast, 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 because it works. And it works because podcast host, a study came out middle of last year that said the most trusted media personalities in the world are podcast hosts. And first you think, wow, but then you think, oh yeah, nobody trusts the media. So it's not real hard. But the reason we're trusted, the recent reason Harry and you and I are trusted is because we're just real people having real conversations. It's not slick Madison Avenue, highly published, polished. It's just real people talking about real things, and you can count on it. So so I say if you've got a message to tell the world, then this is the best medium. So get out there, be honest. I've ended every episode, and we're talking over 100,000 episodes between all the shows we do. Every single episode, I've ended with the
Wow.
phrase, keep it real, because
Mhm.
that's what works. If you try to be the cool guy, if you try to be slick and you're not, people see through that. But like you said earlier, we're just yakking. We're having a conversation. People can tell we're real. I'm real, you're real.
But also, Chris, for example, this podcast, 5 Steps How to Make the First Million. Okay,
Mhm.
so people might think people, yeah, can perceive, right, that okay, that Harris is one of the highest authority in help businesses to make the first million. Yeah, but let me tell you something. There are some things that they are positive about this statement. I'm gonna tell you why. Okay, I already spoke with 500 millionaires sharing the blueprint.
Mhm.
So from an honest conversation, the same way that I'm doing with you.
Yeah.
So the amount of knowledge and expertise that is already into my head,
Yeah.
hand to hand, with the is probably one of the highest in this specific topic. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the second thing is exactly what you said, the connection. Honestly, I can't tell any business around. I just need to make a phone call because with the network that the podcast recreates. So the fact that, that the perception is that I'm one of the biggest authority in helping companies to achieve the first million,
Mhm.
um, it's not only just a statement. I get, the point that you say, who trusts the media. It's not only a statement. Is that the reason that there is this perception is because podcast host has behind a network relating the topic. For example, the topic of your podcast, right?
Yeah.
Um, in that specific topic, you have seen like the highest authority. But you know why? Why is you the highest authority? Because anything related with the topic, any problem that somebody has, anything that they want to do in a
Mhm.
special event, the only one that have the owners of venues, the owners of the stadium, the access to the players, is you because you do have a podcast about the topic. So in your podcast can be players, can be directors, can
Yeah.
be this and that. So that's why it. So the 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 result that the study had created is no. It has some fundamentals behind, which is actually the amount of knowledge that a podcast host gets
Yeah.
in whatever topic he's talking about. Literally make him someone one of the greatest expert in the world in that topic. I agree with that.